Let's talk training intensity and progressive overload. Your goal every week is to increase the weight that you've used or the amount of reps that you've done on every exercise. This is why we record our results of what reps and weight we've used. What's important to know is there are many ways to progress. You might add load, that's the obvious one, but what else? You might use the same weight the next time but get out 1 to 2 more reps. You might complete the set with the same weight and the same amount of reps but with better adherence to technique or better adherence to tempo. We always want to ensure that your technique is correct and that your tempo is followed before increasing the load. Now, week 1 of any new program is always a little bit of guesswork, but let this be your guide so that you know by the end of week 1 of any new program that you found your working weight and are working at the right intensity for each exercise so that you can progress from week 2. So how do you know if you're working at the right training intensity? The answer is in the last 3 reps. Whether you're aiming for 5 reps or a rep range of 10 to 12 reps, your last 3 reps should suck. Not in technique, but your muscles are starting to fail, and the weight moves a lot slower through the contraction despite your effort to be explosive. If your last 3 reps are moving just as smoothly as your earlier reps were, that was a warm-up set and it doesn't count. Up the weight and go again. If you have a rep target, say of 8, I want you to hit 8. But if you fail at 7 or you rush the tempo a little bit on the last couple of reps to get them out, I'm actually happier with that than if you hit a perfect 8 every time. That shows me that you're working hard enough. And then the next week you just aim to hit all 8 reps with the right technique and tempo. And once you've hit that 8 for all of them, we progress the load again. If you have a rep range like 8 to 10, I want you failing somewhere between 8 and 10. If you hit 10, up the weight. If you fail at 8, keep the weight the same the next week and aim to get 1 to 2 more reps out. Once you hit 10, increase the weight. Now let's talk about what failing actually looks like to keep you honest and keep you safe. In an exercise like a squat or deadlift, we want to be calling it fail as soon as there is technical failure. We don't want you moving through ugly reps. If your back is starting to round in your deadlift or your squat is getting kind of ugly, knees are caving in, or you're going into a stripper squat where you lift your back up before your front, we call it fail. We don't wait until the point where you physically actually get squished under the bar to call it a failure. That may happen at some point, which is why you should always have this safety arms out when you're squatting, but ideally we're not hitting that very often. We'll only really see that with those of you who are in more advanced programs. On dumbbell exercises, shaking, spasming, 6-second long reps, that's all fine. But again, we don't want to see technique breaking. If you start to move in a different movement pattern, that means that other muscles are starting to take over and the muscles that we've been trying to target have already failed. We don't want that. On any machine-based exercise, go hard. Go until you can't go anymore. Machines are perfectly safe to fail on. They isolate the target muscles and you should never be finishing on an easy rep. Your face should be scrunching, you should be grunting, those last few reps should be moving really slow despite all your effort to still move that fast. And you can really push yourself to see if you can get that extra 1 to 2 reps out. If on any exercise you feel like taking a 1 to 2 second pause between reps is needed to be able to get that rep out, I'm okay with that. If you just need to treat those last 3 reps as single sets by stopping, rebracing, and going again, that's okay. Just no extended pauses. If you're resting for 3, 4, 5 seconds, you've already ended your set. But particularly on machine exercises, don't call it unless you've spent at least 4 seconds trying to get through that sticking point, because sometimes you'll surprise yourself. I have some sets sometimes where my last rep might take 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds because I will grind through that sticking point, and then once you get through it, the last part of the rep is able to be completed and you can really surprise yourself sometimes. If you pushed for 2 seconds and then dropped it, you've probably sold yourself short. What's important to realize is you probably have your muscles under tension for more time over those last 3 reps than what you do in the entire set leading up to that point. And that time under tension is where the results live. The final indicator of whether you've worked hard enough in your set is your rest time. If you feel like you can jump back into the set after 25, 30 seconds, you didn't work hard enough. Go grab a heavier weight for your next set. And the way I manage your training load is ideally that you are destroyed at the end of each set. You're recovered enough to go back in by the time the required rest period is up, but you feel pretty good at the end of the session. You don't need to feel destroyed at the end of the session for it to have been effective. You need to feel kind of destroyed at the end of each set though. But at the end of the day, you can only grow from what you can recover from, and I don't want to just be pushing a whole bunch of junk volume onto your program to make sure that you feel knackered at the end of it. Now go put it into practice. Put in the effort. Make sure you're training at the right intensity. Fail sometimes. It's okay. Apply progressive overload, and that is where you're going to get the results that you're paying me for.